Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Glad you all could make it today and appreciate all of your grace as we navigate all the last-minute changes we've made this morning with moving worship indoors. But it was a good thing that we did, because in the middle of rehearsal, there was a loud pop, the lights flickered, and boom. Can you imagine if we were outside? Woo! We made the right call. Glad you all are here. It's a really special and unique morning for lots of reasons. One of those is we have a new member of our worship team here, Miss Chloe Peters. She's going to help lead worship on this first song with us. And this is one that we've done before. We would love for you all to sing with us. So let's start together by rising or standing as you are able, and we'll sing together. Oh, and the lyrics. Jeremy's like sending me baseball signals back there. I'm like, what are you doing, guy? Let me look here. There is a website you can go to for lyrics. There's also handouts. Where are the handouts, Jeremy? I'm sorry. Are they in your pews? Purple handouts. And there's also, you can go to our website, so you can pull up lyrics on your phone as well.
So Diana was handing them out. If
Thank
you want
you.
them on your phone, or you don't have the purple handout, you can go to thegrovecg.church/lyrics. thegrovecg.church/lyrics. Otherwise, Diana's back here with lyrics in hand. So if you don't have them and you want them, raise your hand and we'll get them to you.
Thank you.
Oh, the vapor of it all. It's a chasing of the wind, the substance of the form, so pale and thin. Let the veil of earth be stretched again. Oh, behold the holy. Trees clap their hands for you. Oceans, they dance for you. Holy.
Heaven taunts the hearts of men. We can feel it from within, the beauty of it all, the mystery, the swelling of a voice, the rising sea. Holy, oh, behold the holy. Trees clap their hands for you, oceans they dance for you. You are holy, infinite and holy.
A billion suns rise for you, clouds paint the skies for you, mountains stand tall for you, valleys bow down to you, everything rising to sing all our songs to you. Holy, the impossible and holy. Kings become fools for you, kingdoms to ruins for you. Vapor finds ground in you, music finds sound in you. Everything rising, everything rising, everything rising, everything rising, everything rising. Come like dawn, like grace, like sunlight, bring this world to life. Come like rain, like breath, like springtime, bring this world to life.
Hear your voices. Oh. Beautiful.
Well, good morning. Welcome to the Grove on our first outdoor worship Sunday. Welcome to the Grove for our Pet Blessing Sunday. Thank you for being nimble. The nice thing about having a church building right out in the Grove is we can make last-minute decisions like this. So, we're going to do our Pet Blessing next weekend. Weather permitting, Finley might be back. Any of your other pets might be back. It'll be great to be with you then as well. But we're here inside this morning. It's great to be with you. My name's Jeremy. I'm the pastor here of the Grove, Cottage Grove. And we're a brand new church that exists to grow goodness. So we hope that every interaction that you have with us, whether you're in here, in the room with us, whether you're outside in the Grove with us, whether you're watching with us online, is nurturing, healing, wholeness, and beauty in your life.
Good morning. It is good to be with you. As you can see, I have a special guest with me this morning. This is Finley, the golden doodle. He is about 11 months old, so he is just loving being here this morning. He wasn't going to let the rain stop him from coming to worship. But he'll probably be here next week as well. Take a look at your worship bulletin on the inside. Make sure to fill out your information to let us know that you are here with us this morning, and we will collect that at the end of worship or during offering. On the back side is an opportunity for you to let us know any of your interests and things you would like to volunteer with us or join groups in, as well as let us know what you would like us to pray with you about.
So a few announcements. I'd have you turn to the back, but I suppose the pet blessing still applies. So we do have the pet blessing coming up next week. If you know of anybody who would really enjoy that opportunity to get their dog, their cat, their tortoise, their guinea pig, their gerbil, their parrot out and participate in worship out in the Grove, invite them to come back next week. Again, hopefully the rain holds up. If not, we'll push it back another week because we can do that. Next week, we're starting a new series, which we're calling Cancel Culture. You're going to hear more about it at the end, but basically the series is going to be looking at, like, what are these different things that when you dig a little deeper, you realize, oh, these are actually pretty toxic, or the people behind them are pretty toxic. What do we then do with those things? So we're going to be covering that over the course of June. We hope that you'll join us for that. One of those Sundays, June 12th, is going to be our Pride Sunday specifically. So we hope that you come out for that, invite others to join us for that as well.
Talking about kids for the summer, today we have some activities in the back for kiddos to work on, and then throughout the summer we will have activities outside for kids to engage in. We won't have any formal curriculum inside for godly play, but there will be lots of activities for kids to do.
All right. So with that, we're now going to move into the introvert's least favorite part of the service, the connection point. So again, we are a brand new community. One of the most important things for us to do is be building relationships with one another. So we're going to give you a question for you to stand up and talk to somebody near you that you don't know or don't know very well. And today's question is, it's Memorial Day weekend, and so the question is, who do you remember on Memorial Day? So as we go into this day of remembrance tomorrow, who is someone that you routinely remember? And that can just be a prompt. If you want to talk about other things for a couple minutes, that's fine as well, but at least we're giving you a script so that you don't walk in without something to talk about. Jacob will play while we chat, and we will reconvene in just a couple minutes. All right. I love the conversation, but why don't we reconvene? Okay. All right. So this is a little bit of a fly by the seat of your pants kind of Sunday. Not only because we got to move inside, had the opportunity to move inside, but also there's just a lot going on. There's a lot going on back there with the kids, but there's just a lot going on in the world as well. And this Sunday, we're on this Memorial Day weekend. This Sunday, this service specifically is going to be a service of memory and remembrance as well. As you are fully aware, and I'm going to do my best with kiddos in the room to talk about something that all of you are fully aware of, that they don't necessarily need to be fully aware of. Eventually they will be, but As you are aware, there was another tragic event that happened in our country over this past week, and unfortunately, it's very possible that we are becoming numb to it because it's shocking and not surprising. Shocking and not surprising. And this is on the Siri. This is on the heels of other events as well. Just 2 weeks ago, we gathered here and we took a time of silence and prayer for another event out in Buffalo. And as we're like facing this ongoing pandemic, this health pandemic, we live in a country where there is a violence epidemic, and it can be crippling. It can feel crippling in many ways. So one of the things we're going to do today, we're going to be talking about thoughts and prayers. That's what I'm going to be talking about in my message. And we're going to spend some time up front actually thinking and praying too. I do think that is effective. It's not sufficient, but it is effective and important. So in a moment here, we are going to have 2 songs that are pretty reflective. You'll be invited, just kind of sit back and consume one of them and then participate in another one. And then we are going to be lighting candles as well in remembrance of the victims in Uvalde, in Buffalo, and so many other places. I've got more to say later. That's as much as I'm going to say right now. So let's take this time to reflect and pray over these victims and our country.
Christy, will you come forward? We have some candles here as a visual representation. The large one for all of the violence we have suffered and continue to suffer in this country. I know it's tricky. Push it down really hard. There you go. A candle each for Uvalde and Buffalo and the church outside of Sacramento as well. Thank you. Let's take a moment, center ourselves, and then we'll sing Illuminate the Shadows together.
Illuminate the shadows, comfort those who are cast down. Illuminate the shadows, be a refuge in the time of storm. Oh God, our help in the time of trouble.
Oh God, our help in the time of trouble.
Oh God, our help in the time of trouble.
Oh God, our help in the time of trouble.
Oh God, our help in the time of trouble.
Oh God, our help in the time of trouble.
Oh God, our help in the time of trouble.
Will you sing that with us? Illuminate.
Illuminate the shadows. Cast the evil ruler from his throne. Illuminate the shadows. Break oppression with your mighty arm. Oh God, our help in the time of trouble.
Oh God, our help in the time of trouble.
Oh God, our help in the time of trouble.
Oh God, our help in the time of trouble.
Oh God, our help in the time of trouble.
Oh, God, our help in the time of trouble.
Oh, God, our help in the time of trouble. Illuminate the shadows till every idol has been trampled on. Illuminate the shadows till every statue comes tumbling down, down, down.
Oh, God, our help in the time of trouble.
Oh, God, our help in the time of trouble.
Oh, God, our help in the time of trouble.
Oh, God, our help in the time of trouble.
Oh, God, our help in the time of trouble.
Oh, God, our help in the time of trouble.
Oh, God, our help in the time of trouble. You bring hope to the hopeless. You bring hope to the hopeless. You bring hope to the hopeless. Sometimes it feels like calling out in a word of despair, just utter guttural honesty is like the only thing we can do. I don't know about y'all, but I've had multiple times this week where was crying out something, just like, why? Or, you think of Jesus' words, my God, why have you forsaken me? Just a very human moment where we can do nothing but feel. And I've had multiple times this week myself where I've had those moments. You cry out, there's no answers in those moments. There might not be any peace or any hope in those moments. But there's honesty, and there's a heartfelt connection with each other and with God. I think it's important for us to collectively take a moment to share together in some of that. I don't know if you all have been a part of a church before where people can speak from the congregation. That's something we encourage you to do. Nobody is forced to, but I want to give a moment here. Jacob will play some music. And I would ask that you all share maybe one word of how you've been feeling this week about what's going on in our country, or about what you've been feeling today, because for me it's changed every day. What is the feeling that's just at the top of your heart, top of your mind? If you could just voice it and get it out in the open, and that be a prayer for you and for all of us this morning. So we'll take a moment to do that. Y'all can just, from where you're from, call it out as loud as you can. And we'll all share in that together. I'll start. I'm angry. Speak up as you feel comfortable.
Thank you all. And for anything left unspoken, God hears that too. There's a prayer on your sheet or in your lyrics online. I would love for us all to pray that out loud together. Ready? God of all, we are heartbroken. We know you are too. May our thoughts become prayers and our prayers become action. May our despair turn to hope as our hands and feet work toward healing. Stir us to join in your peacemaking work and help us do our best to believe that change for this world is possible with you, our Creator, our Sustainer, our Redeemer. Amen. We want to share a song as a time of reflection, one that I wrote a few months ago in response to the war in Ukraine. And there's a specific lyric that keeps coming up for me this week anytime I've been processing all the feels. This one lyric says, "Bury guns where gardens grow." I'm so grateful to be connected to a church community that is committed to growing goodness and to burying things that not only no longer serve us, but things that take life. We bury that, and from that comes something good. And we join God in that work. So even though this song is recognizing that we're in a tough and a painful place, it's a hopeful song that will join with God and that work of growth in the world. So y'all can just sit back and let this be a time of prayer or reflection or whatever you need it to be this week. You are the God of the wrong made right. You are the darkness turned to light. Light. You are the God of the kingdom come, but the kingdom reigns with boundless love. Love. When all comes crashing down around us, we know you'll rebuild. When all seems lost and courage faded, make us steadfast still. You are the God of the war-turned peace. You take our grief and give us dancing. Dancing. You are the God of a cold, dark night, holding us till all is bright. Bright. When all comes crashing down around us, we know you'll rebuild. When all seems lost and courage faded, make us steadfast still. Hope will come again. Enemies solitude. In life and death, we cling to you.
Thank you, Katie. I wish that song weren't so prescient at so many different moments, even over the last couple months. So I mentioned earlier that we are in the middle of, we're in between worship series. So we just finished up our worship series called Back to Basics, where we talked about the things that are most important now and always have been, basically looking at our values as a church. And then next week, we're beginning this 4-week series called Cancel Culture. Again, you'll hear more about that at the end of the service, so introduce more about that. But we were smack dab in the middle here. We were in a holiday weekend, and I thought, what a great opportunity to open it up to you all out there and say, what things would you be interested in hearing about? Now, I didn't get to choose everybody's. I'm not going to be talking about everybody's question that they wanted to discuss today. But there are a couple that we're going to be coming back to in the very near future. One of them was about how do we work with people who are not inclusive and often use religion or the Bible to prove that they shouldn't be. We're going to be taking on that a lot this next month, especially on June 12th. Another one was about our commitment to racial justice, specifically in the murder of George Floyd. The 2-year anniversary was this past week. We're going to be touching on that specifically on June 19th, which is, of course, Juneteenth. But there was one that a few different people mentioned and a few different people brought up over the last couple months. And then with all that's happened over the last week and the last couple weeks, I thought this really seems like it's something that's timely. And so what we're going to be talking today about is prayer. And in order to talk about prayer, because prayer can be a little bit of a confusing thing, I'm actually going to be telling a bunch of different stories and somehow weaving them together in maybe, hopefully, a coherent way. But I'm going to start with 2 stories. And they are 2 stories of 2 men who have never met. They live on opposite ends of the country, like literally opposite ends of the country. And yet their stories, their lives, their fates are intimately tied to one another. So the first person, the first man, the first story is the story of Joe Blush. I had to write it down. Blushstein. Joe Blushstein. So in September of 2014, Joe Blushstein was out on a boat off of the coast of Southern California along with his brother and some other friends, and he went overboard. Nobody knew when it happened that he had gone overboard. He went overboard without a life jacket. Now, somehow, some way, he was able to keep himself afloat with nothing other than literally the clothes on his back. But after a while, he was out there long enough where he started getting cramps. And he started feeling like, he started planning for how things were going to go down, basically. But in that moment, he also was like transported back to his upbringing. He was raised in the church, but kind of lapsed. And in that moment, in that point of absolute need, when he felt like he couldn't do it any longer himself, he prayed to God that God would help him, give him the strength that he needed to survive. And not long after that, a boat came by. And that boat somehow was able to see him and hear him whistling out for help and was able to rescue him. And Joe attributes all of that, his saving, to praying to God, that God saved him because he called out to him. So that's Joe Blushstein. Other end of the country, so that's Southern California. In the Northeast, in the early 2000s, there was a man named Arthur Ashe. Not Arthur Ashe. Arthur Allen. Arthur Allen, not Arthur Ashe. Arthur Allen was is an oceanographer for the Coast Guard Search and Rescue Division. And in the early 2000s, Arthur Allen was bothered by a problem that he saw. And the problem that he saw was that far too many people were lost at sea. And he said, I'm going to take it upon myself to try to figure out how to save people who would otherwise be lost at sea. Up until this time, really up until World War II, no one would even look for people that were lost at sea. They would just assume that they were gone. From World War II until the early 2000s, when Arthur Allen comes on the scene, they kind of guessed. They said, all right, well, here's where this person was last seen. Maybe they could be in any one of these spots, and it wasn't very effective. Well, Arthur Allen comes in and he says, I'm so bothered by this problem, I have to do something about it. So he started throwing stuff into the ocean, literally. He chose this part of the ocean near where he lived, and over the course of time, he threw over 1,000 different objects into the ocean, not just for fun. But what he did was he tracked how they floated, where they floated, and then he took that information based on the way that different things floated, and he put that together with the wind, with the currents, with the last known location. And what ended up happening is Arthur Allen developed this system that in 2007 was rolled out by the Coast Guard. Now, there's about 13 people who go missing at sea every single day, and 10 of them are rescued. 10 out of 13 people are now rescued. That amounts to about 1,000 people per year are rescued at sea who would otherwise be left for dead because Arthur Allen saw a problem and he said, I got to do something about that. So Joe Bluestein in the ocean in September 2014, was he rescued because he prayed to God? Or was he rescued because Arthur Allen saw a problem 10 years earlier and decided to do something about it? That should have been our connection point question. That would have been really interesting to hear you chat about that. I wouldn't do that to you. Prayer is a super weird thing. Can I get an amen? Prayer is a super strange thing, and I'm just going to be totally honest. I do not understand prayer. I don't fully even understand what it is. We're going to try to get at some of that today. I don't understand how it works. I don't know even how to, what does work? What is prayer working? How do you define how it works? And then what I did was, this week, I went through and I thought about things that I'd heard about prayer, and then different spots of the Bible that say things about prayer. And here are some of the strange things that are often contradictory that are said or thought about prayer. Prayer is a conversation with God. And it's kind of one-sided. Prayer is talking to God, but we can also just think it in our heads. Pray ceaselessly, we're told. Do it anywhere, but also just do it in the quiet of your home because you don't want to do it in front of other people and make it a show. Pray with specific words, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, but also pray from your heart. Pray for your enemies, but also don't waste your prayers on your enemies. This is in the Bible, both of those. God is all-knowing, but I need to tell God what's happening. God is unchanging, but praying can change God's mind. God is love, but will only get involved in a situation if I ask. So do we credit God for answered prayers or ourselves? And do we blame God for unanswered prayers or ourselves? How many have similar questions or wonderings about prayer when it comes to stuff like that? Yeah. Prayer's super weird in theory. Prayer is super weird theologically. And I find it even more strange, more difficult to understand in practice. I find it hard to understand Joe Bluestein's situation when he's left for dead in the ocean in September of 2014. I also find it really confusing and confounding in situations like Sandy Hook Elementary School. So I will never forget that day. December 14th, 2012, we had just gotten our oldest daughter's crib. She wasn't going to be born for another 6 months. We got her crib, and I jumped at it. I was putting it together that day, and it was while I was putting it together that I got the news alert across my phone about what had happened at Sandy Hook. And obviously, I was devastated. And And I was a student ministry pastor at that time, and so that was on a Friday, I believe. The following Sunday, before we started any of our programming, I gathered all of our students together, and I said, many of you either you weren't alive on September 11th, or you have no memory of it, but September 11th was this event where, like, that day happened and everything was different after that. And I said, this day, this event is going to be like that for you. After this, everything is going to be different. And so what we did was I honestly believed that. And so what we did was we sent out thoughts and prayers. And 10 years later, nothing's different. What's different is now I have a kid who's the age of the ones in Uvalde. And so, like, if nothing has changed, then we got to ask questions about prayer, right? We weren't the only ones praying on that Sunday. You were probably praying as well. Lots of people were sending out thoughts and prayers. And so the question then becomes, was there something ineffective about our thoughts and prayers? Or were they simply inefficient? Was there something that we did or said wrong when we prayed in that moment? Or was the simple act of praying not enough in that moment to actually do something about it, to actually initiate the change that was necessary? There's a philosopher and theologian named Soren Kierkegaard. Have any of you read Kierkegaard? 1, 2, 3. All right, we've got 4 in the room. Soren Kierkegaard. He was an angsty guy. He had a lot of big feelings about church, a lot of big feelings about religion. He engaged really deeply with the deep and difficult things and like went around in circles about them. But one of the things that he dove in on and like kind of embraced for the amount of angst that he had was prayer. And this is what Soren Kierkegaard said about prayer. The function of prayer is not to influence God, but rather to change the nature of the one who prays. I'll read it again because you don't have it on the screen behind me. The function of prayer is not to influence God, but rather to change the nature of the one who prays. So I'm going to tell another story. This is not a true story. This is called the parable of the drowning man. You've probably heard some variety of this story before. This connects really well to Joe Bluestein. There was once a pastor who lived in a town where a big storm rolled through, and it was raining cats and dogs. And soon it became apparent that there was going to be major flooding. And so someone came to the church building where the pastor was. The streets were starting to flood. Came in a canoe, and they said, "Pastor, we're here to take you away from here." He said, No. I prayed about this. God's got it. A little bit later, the waters keep rising. A motorboat comes by. Same thing. "Pastor, we're here to save you." He said, No. I prayed about it. Finally, the waters have gotten so high that the pastor's up on the church building or up on the roof. A helicopter comes by. They lean out and say, "Pastor, we're here to save you." And he says, "No, I prayed about it." Obviously, it ends like you would expect that it would end. And the pastor finds himself in heaven standing before God. And he says, "God, why didn't you save me?" And God says what? "I sent you 2 boats and a helicopter." Now, that story is often told by non-religious people, and the point is, like, you don't need to pray because you have these options right out in front of you, these options that will help to save you. But that's not actually what happens in the story, is it? There is prayer. God is there with him. God is there with this man. God hears. God responds. God sends help. And the guy has to act. He's got to do something once provided with that help. Thoughts and prayers in this story, in life, are important. and thoughts and prayers in this story, in this life, are often insufficient. The act of prayer, I am convinced, we're talking about what prayer is. The act of prayer is an act of trust and transformation. There's a trust when we throw these ideas out into the universe, when we throw these requests out into the universe, we trust that God, in some capacity, in some way, somewhere, somehow, is going to hear that prayer and somehow respond to it. Somehow provide some help that we need in response to it. But it's also not just trust, but transformation. Because if we care so much about a situation to pray about it, if we're going to rework Kierkegaard's quote a little bit, we pray about something because we care about it. If we care about it, it means it's important. And if it's important enough to pray about it, then it's important enough to try to do something about it, right? There's trust and transformation. The act of prayer is an act of defiance against the world as it is, saying, this is not okay, this is not good enough, and we need to respond accordingly. So Joe Bluestein, in the ocean in Southern California in September of 2014, I am convinced that he was saved from his death because he prayed. I am also convinced that that saving from his death began 10 years earlier when Arthur Allen said, I see a problem and I see an opportunity to save 1,000 lives a year. And both of those things were important, both trust and transformation. So, I don't know what all the answers are. These are really complicated questions. If you want to talk politics and policy, we'll do that not from up here. But I do want to say I believe that prayer, that thoughts are important, effective, and insufficient. So may we be the people who hold that tension, who say that we're going to hold trust and we're going to believe in transformation and that we're going to do the necessary and courageous things in order to bring those things together. So let that be so.
For our last song today, I'd like us to sing the Psalms together. Psalm 126. I think we've done this song before. It's been a while, so it may not be familiar, but giving you some context to this psalm, the Israelites seem to be, the writer seems to be reflecting on the nation of Israel and kind of saying like, man, things were good. We were glorious. God, help us restore that again. There's a lot implied there, but a simple prayer contained in that. Just, God, restore us. Here, I'll read. It's a short psalm. Let me read this from the Message version, because I think our nation can relate to some of this sentiment. It seemed like a dream, too good to be true, when God returned Zion's exiles. We laughed, we sang, we couldn't believe our good fortune. We were the talk of the nations. God was wonderful to them. God was wonderful to us. We are one happy people. And now, God, do it again. Bring rains to our drought-stricken lives, so those who planted their crops in despair will shout, yes, at the harvest. So those who went off with heavy hearts will come home laughing, with armloads of blessing. We can honestly sing and pray and say today, God, restore us, with the hope that we will be. And we can participate in that as well. Will you all stand or rise? We'll sing through this chorus one time so you can get familiar with it. The melody is somewhat repetitive, so I think you'll catch on and sing as much as you can with us. There we go. Okay. Although we are weeping us keep sowing the seeds of your kingdom, for the day you will reap them. Your sheaves we will carry. Lord, please do not tarry. All those who sow weeping will go out with songs of joy. God. Our mouths, they were filled with laughter. Our tongues, they were loosed with joy. Here's that prayer, restore us. Restore us, O Lord. Restore us, O Lord. Although we are weeping, Lord, help us keep sowing the seeds of your kingdom, for the day you will reap them. Your sheaves we will carry. Lord, please do not tarry. All those who sow weeping will go out with songs of joy. The nations will say, He has done great things. The nations will sing songs of joy. Restore us, O Lord. Restore us, O Lord. Let's sing this as heartily as we can. Although we are weeping, Lord, help us keep sowing the seeds of your kingdom, for the day you will reap them. Your sheaves we will carry. Lord, please do not tarry. All those who sow weeping will go out with songs of joy. All those who sow weeping will go out with songs of joy.
Well, it was great to be with you this morning. It is always a pleasure to be with you, to be part of a community that grows goodness, that deals with the heaviness of life head on, because we believe that it matters. We believe that God cares, and we ought to care as well. As we leave, a couple of things to note. It's Pet Blessing Sunday next week, hopefully. No, I was convinced this morning, no pets will be turned away. So if you show up next week with a pet and we end up being inside, we will not turn them away, okay? So we're going to plan for that. We'll plan to be outside 10 a.m. as always. Something different, we had been passing baskets both for the worship inserts and for offering. Because we moved in from outside, we didn't pass them today. We're not going to pass them over the course of the summer, but the baskets are back there. So if you filled out an insert, letting us know you're here, requesting any information, or if you have a financial gift to give, you can put it in the baskets right on that back table. And then, the last thing is the worship series starting next week. So cancel culture. Cancel culture came out of this idea that Katie had about rewriting hymns. hymns that were at one point very meaningful to people, but some of the theology is maybe a little uncomfortable, or maybe the people who wrote them were revealed to have done not great things. So like, do we continue to embrace these things? Do we throw them out? Or can we figure out a way to redeem them? So we're going to be taking that on over the course of June with a different topic every single week. And the first one is, anybody want to guess? Big one, the church. The church, having done all sorts of messy things throughout its 2,000-year history, and even today, there's no dearth of investigative reporting or documentaries about all the nasty things that the church has done. Can the church be redeemed? I sure hope so. We'll find out next week. So we hope you'll join us for that. As we go, I'm actually going to repeat the prayer that we said together earlier. So you can stand as you're able, extend your hands as you're able, and I will say this prayer as we go out. There are cookies and coffee. Please stay afterwards and enjoy those and enjoy each other's presence. All right, the sending prayer. God of all, we are heartbroken. We know you are too. May our thoughts become prayers and our prayers become action. May our despair turn to hope as our hands and feet work toward healing. Stir us to join in your peacemaking work and help us do our best to believe that change for this world is possible with you, our Creator, our Sustainer, our Redeemer. Amen.